66 runs in that second session of play that takes India just over 100 on day one of the first test at Adelaide on ESPN Cricket for Match. So we're going to look back at that middle session of play as there's a short tea interval now. And Australia would be delighted that Cheteshwar Pujara isn't at the crease. India would be delighted that Virat Kohli still is. Let's go to Akash Chopra. Scoring picked up by just a little bit. But would Australia take that session? The wicket of Pujara in it, Akash?
See, ideally it should have been 66 for one, should be even Stevens 50-50. But when you consider the fact that India scored only 40 odd runs in the first session, and the last session is going to be that twilight period, which is the toughest to bat with Ajinkya Rahane, who's just walked in, and of course Kohli is set, so that's a great thing. But Ajinkya Rahane has just walked in, so maybe it'll go in favor of Australia slightly.
All right, now we must get into this Cheteshwar Pujara versus Nathan Lyon encounter. We spoke on the previous show, but we see a lot of Lyon. You suspected perhaps Lyon later towards the day. He's bowled 12 overs in this session, more than any other bowler. And that contest with Pujara is something that I want you to take me through.
Oh, it was very exciting. It was top quality off-break bowling that we saw on day one of a test match pitch. And the pitch that is supposedly more grassy. It's got 8 mm of grass with a Kookaburra ball that is, which was a little old, so you don't have the seam to play with. It's not like your SG test ball, but this guy is all class. He's got this wonderful body action, puts everything behind the ball, and gets a lot of bounce and top spin. He's phenomenal. Asked a lot of tough questions to the two players who are arguably the best players of spin. Virat Kohli, we don't give him enough credit, but the fact is that he doesn't get out to spin that often, not even in India, on some dust bowls. Pujara, of course, that's well documented how he plays against spin, the usage of feet, whether it's going down the track or using the depth of the crease. He's been exceptional generally. So it was a great tussle. It was like one of the major contests that you always look forward to watch. It's not so much Pujara versus pace, it's Pujara versus spin, because he will accelerate a little. He'll try to dominate. He's got a very unique style of playing, which is throwback to the days gone by. That's how he used to play spin. Just step out and then just pad it, then go deep inside the crease, wait for the bad ball or create one. That's the kind of spin, rather the player of spin that Pujara is. But in the end, of course, Nathan Lyon had the last laugh, and he was absolutely exceptional on day one.
Yeah, I know, but it wasn't the first time that he managed to, say, induce a false shot in the form of a defense of Pujara. Now, this is something that intrigues me. Pujara's way of countering Lyon seemed to involve a lot of stepping out, padding. We've seen it before, or even playing him, coming down the feet and trying to take him on. Every time he played what was a conventional defense without coming out, there were oohs and ahs. It looked like the close-in fielders came in. Now, what does that tell you of either Lyon, the bowler, or Pujara versus Lyon? That the time he seemed most vulnerable was when he was actually just trying to defend in his crease.
Because it's not easy. That's the thing, Ronak. It is not easy to defend just standing in your crease. He is getting the ball to bounce a lot more. The ball is dipping on you all the time. And since this is a day one pitch, certain balls will hold their line, and others are going to come in. And he's bowling a length where you are slightly in two minds, whether to go on the front foot, but you may want to go on the front foot. The fact is you're still slightly away from the ball. And if you go deep inside the crease, you're not 100% certain that I've picked the right length. And also, from a very Indian perspective, this will change as the series progresses. We are all designed to have lower hands. We actually are very low in terms of hands when we defend in India, in the subcontinent. And this track and the most Australian tracks actually, and with how Nathan Lyon operates, you need to start defending a lot higher. And that's something that just cannot happen overnight. So you are practicing, you know that you need to do it, but sometimes it takes actually some amount of time to get used to that idea that hands are to be a lot higher, and lower is going to put you in trouble. Fascinating contest, nevertheless, but expect more of it. Let's be fair. This time around, Nathan Lyon had the last laugh. But come the next 2-3 test matches, you'll see Pujara scoring a lot of runs against Nathan Lyon.
I'm very fascinated to hear what you've just said, because I'm also trying to go deeper into it and figure what you mean by when you say Indian batsmen are, of course, trained to play with their hands lower in the subcontinent. Now, you and me are sitting at home. I don't know if you've got a bat around or maybe a little stick or something, but tell me what he's got to do to perhaps be in a better position to counter Lyon. When you say it takes time to practice how to defend higher, what does that mean exactly?
See, there is the sweet spot of the bat is somewhere in the middle. So when you're playing on surfaces that doesn't have a lot of bounce, you keep your hands really low. You want to just do you remember Hashim Amla actually defending in India?
Right.
So he found a new way. He really
Yeah.
went low, and that was like an exaggerated movement where everybody felt okay, he's doing something different. Of course, Indian batsmen don't do that differently because we are used to playing on these surfaces. He was coming from South Africa. He understood that your hands have to be low, so he really went low. But
Yeah.
Indian batsmen don't go that low, but they're still fairly low hands, where your hands are around your the flap of your pads. If that is a good indicator, and from there you're trying to just smother the spin every single time, get close to the pitch as much as possible. But in Australia, because the ball is going to bounce a lot more, you need to get your hands higher, maybe around your thigh. So that's the difference is only maybe few inches, not a lot, but those few inches. It takes a lot of practice and mental conditioning that you need to now start doing things differently. You are slightly out of your comfort zone, but that's what it is. And the higher you defend, the better chances you have that the ball is going to hit the sweet spot of the bat, and you'll be in more control. If the hands are low, the bat is also might just be at an angle. The inside edges, everything else also comes into the picture. So it's a lot about comfort, where what you're comfortable doing. And Pujara, anyways, he holds the bat really low on the bat handle, and that means his hands are generally lower than everybody else. So for him, it's a slightly bigger adjustment to make.
It's an interesting point you make. Tom Moody mentioned this on one of our Mute Me programs that India should have carried a spin contingent with them to help spinners learn how to bowl in Australia, and batsmen perhaps how to play spinners as net bowlers. The focus always seems for subcontinent or Indian sides, let's get ready to play Australia's pacers on fast bouncy wickets, or at least practice against the seamers. Do you think somewhere it gets neglected or slightly underrated as to how much they need to prepare against spin, especially a spinner of Nathan Lyon's quality?
See, while there is merit in that argument in terms of just the preparation and understanding, but then it is also a fact that you're facing Nathan Lyon. So once
Hmm.
you're facing Nathan Lyon, everybody in the Indian batting lineup knows you need to have a plan. You need to have immense, like, at least some amount of preparation beforehand, because you are up against a quality operator. Of course, these conditions are not Indian conditions where there are spin ready surfaces, but then there is bounce, and he made good use of that. He's got a wonderful body action. He's taken a lot of wickets against India. So you do prepare accordingly. But then when you are going to Australia or South
Yeah.
Africa or England or New Zealand, well, that's not the first thing that you're going to actually think about. That's the first thing that crosses your mind. It is the pace, the swing in England, a seam in South Africa, bounce in Australia. Those are the things that, of course, occupy your mind space a lot more.
Yep, absolutely fair enough. Now, it's not like these are inexperienced batsmen. These are India's best batsmen. They've played Nathan Lyon home and away enough times, so tells you what a challenge it is. Last question on Lyon before we move on: is it surprising you in any way as to how much he's come into the game so early in what 1.5 sessions on the first day of play?
I am slightly surprised, but again, I think this pink ball test match is still like the developing story, where
Yeah,
you're trying to understand all the threads.
yeah,
So we briefly touched upon the fact that you want your fast bowlers to be at least a couple of them to be really fresh for that twilight period. But then it can be laden with risk, because if you allow the opposition to run away in the second session, then you're playing the catching up game. And with Lion, I think so that could have been the overwhelming thought. Get Lion in and see what happens. And then Lion comes, and Lion does what he generally does. He's been economical, he's been aggressive, and he's picked up one of the most important wickets in the Indian batting lineup. So when you start with, or you have a bowler of that caliber in your armory, then you can tweak your plans a little bit, and then you can also plan ahead, because that's the thing. Now in the third session, twilight will set in, and it will get into dark, and the ball is going to move a lot more. Ajinkya Rahane actually confessed that the ball actually comes faster off the surface, and he will be there facing that. So their fast bowlers are fairly fresh, and Lion has allowed them to do so.
All right, now let's talk about that period of play now. This is all the build-up that we tend to have. Now comes the most challenging part of the game, this twilight period. You've not played a day-night test, but from what you can put yourself into a batsman's shoes into, what do you think the challenge is, and how do you prepare for it?
See, the biggest challenge, Ronak, I feel, is that your mind is not processing information at the pace that you are used to.
Hmm.
And by that I mean, when you practice against a red ball all your life, and it's not just 2 sessions, 20 sessions. I'm talking about tens of thousands of balls. So you're preparing against the red ball, and then you start preparing against the white ball. To be fair, when I played white ball for the first time, I felt that even spotting the white ball is a little different, or a little difficult. It takes some time to get used to seeing that color and allowing your mind to, and mind obviously will operate on its own. You don't tell him to operate. So mind has to process everything that he's seeing. The eyes are seeing, the mind is processing, but the processor is working slow now because you're not used to seeing the pink ball to begin with. And this twilight zone where the light is obviously fading a little, the floodlights are taking control. It is again a thing where a territory that's not been chartered. You've not traveled enough on that path for you to know what to look for, and your mind to process the information that's available. Nothing else changes. Honestly speaking, technically, scientifically, nothing
Hmm.
can actually change. The ball still stays the same. The lights are good enough for you to see. When we talk about broadcast quality lights, they are far greater than what you need to play. So
Yeah.
there is no reason for anybody to actually not see the ball properly. But once sometimes what you can't understand, you can't fathom, you can't put words to it. You find words that are common to you, that are easily available. So I find it difficult to watch the ball. That may not be the fact. The fact is your mind is not processing as fast, and therefore, just the minor, like a fraction of a little second that gets delayed, and you think, oh, I may not have spotted the ball at all. But of course you did, because eyes are seeing what you're seeing. Simple.
Yeah, the comments that you said about Rahane, which is interesting as well, when he says that twilight period ball came on faster. You try to think about what kind of bowler could be most dangerous. Australia have got an all-round brilliant bowling attack, but we haven't mentioned much of Josh Hazlewood in either show number 1 or 2. Is he the kind of bowler that could particularly trouble batsmen in this challenging period?
I would say yes. He's been slightly underwhelming in this setup so far. We expected Josh Hazelwood to do a lot of talking, but it wasn't the case. It was Mitchell Stark to begin with, then Pat Cummins, beautiful, and then Nathan Lyon. So he's
Hmm.
been quietly playing second fiddle, just staying in the background thus far. But when you talk about ball zipping around a little, you're finding it difficult to spot the ball, or your decision making is getting impaired a little. Then Josh Hazelwood is the guy you don't want to face, because he's going to make you play every single ball. He's going to ask you those probing questions, and you can't line him up. With someone like Stark, at least he's as good as he is. The fact is, that if he's likely to either go a lot fuller, just really really full, or he'll go really short. The ball is, if it's not moving, reverse swinging, it's fine. It's not going to move much, so you play the angle and all of that. With Cummins also, the length is quite predictable, which is a little away from you. He's not going to bowl really full, but Josh Hazelwood can actually be on that length. That's slightly three-quarter-ish, and then pitch a lot fuller. He'll make you drive. He'll go slightly like outside the box, really corner of the box, and then makes the ball go away from there. He did that a couple of times in the first session. So he'll be more than a handful, that's for sure.
All right. Now, run making is still challenging. Pujara managed, what, 26 of 72 in this session. Kohli, 39 not out of 100, and 34 not out of 89 in this session. Can we say Kohli, who's batting at 39 of 111 now, is looking his fluent self or not yet?
See, he's there. He's
Hmm.
there. He's also cautious. He also knows that the importance of that innings. And once again, pink ball is presenting a slightly different challenge. And when there are runs are not just easy to get by. See, I'd like to put myself in their shoes and understand that these are challenges. This is the first test match after such a long time. This is the first second pink ball test match. There is more grass on the surface. We haven't had a great start. So you're trying to stitch together something and not be hasty. So Virat Kohli is not looking that bad, barring a couple of short deliveries that has really ruffled the feathers. We've seen him hit on the gloves a few times, which is not normal for someone like Kohli.
Yeah.
He's pretty confident and comfortable against the short ball. He's not been picking that short ball that well. Other than that, he looks all right. That shimmy down the ground and Nathan Lyon down the ground aerial shot for a boundary, I thought was a quite a statement. But then he
Yeah.
didn't follow through with the same kind of intent, and maybe Pujara was also just taking a lot of strike against Nathan Lyon. Kohli didn't get enough strike against Nathan Lyon.
I'm glad you brought that up. Just before we wind up, maybe if you could just put a finger to it, whether you can understand why Kohli seems to have trouble with the short ball, which is unusual.
I don't know. Honestly, once again, it could be the pink ball. It could be Test cricket after such a long time. Uh, First day surface actually at times, and we've seen some of the edges not carrying. So the bounce and the pace of the surface is slightly different.
Mm.
Sometimes on day one, it gets quicker. It becomes more predictable. First day, we've seen in Adelaide. Actually, last time around, I was there, and the talk of the entire Test match was that there was a bit of spongy bounce on the surface. So when that's the case, you're not always certain whether it's going to go over. Is it something that I should be playing or leaving, defending or attacking? So the moment you're in two minds, you're pretty much done and dusted. So maybe that's playing on Kohli's mind.
Well, importantly enough, he survives. So this is an appetizing session now. We've got India's captain and vice captain up against Australia's bowling in what is now built up to be the most challenging part of batting in the day. Akash Chopra, let's pick up this conversation at the end of the day. Tom Moody will join us too, and we'll look back what's already been an excellent day of Test match cricket. Let's see if India can manage to keep things going in the next session, or Australia can have a big one to push this day firmly, well and truly in their way. Join us for post-match analysis or end-of-day analysis, rather, on ESPN Cricket for Match Day. And make sure if you're watching in the subcontinent, then log in every now and then to check out all the footage and the highlights that we'll get you, major clips, action from this Test series. It'll be on ESPNcricinfo.com and the all-new ESPN Cricinfo mobile app. See you then.